Have you ever felt like you're absolutely just slaying life because you're like multitasking your way through it and saving so much time, sending emails while folding laundry, watching your favorite series while something's cooking on the stove as well? This might actually be doing the exact opposite, draining you, messing with your memory, messing with your brain's processing time, and actually making you even more stressed out. What I learned recently completely shifted the way that I think about my day and the tasks that I'm doing, and it might change for you too. If you don't know me, hi, I'm Stefanie. I'm your chronically anxious, overthinking weirdo next door. I share my learnings along my healing journey, as well as my ponderings of an unofficial 21st century philosopher. I'll be honest, multitasking is basically like my default state. 99% of my life I spend juggling multiple things at once because let's face it, life doesn't slow down. None of us have enough time. Multitasking has just always felt like literally the only option for me to get through my day, get through my week. But the thing is, no matter how much I tried to optimize my life, there was never really more time. And I felt like I was super productive, but I felt constantly overwhelmed, constantly drained, constantly on edge and about to just break down. I've heard so many people say like multitasking isn't good for you. And I was like, listen, I'm the queen of multitasking. I know what I'm doing and obviously I'm getting shit done at the same time. But suddenly I learned about how my brain works, especially the part about how my brain processes information and forms memories. So this one morning I woke up and I was lying in bed, still way too tired to get up, but my brain was just overly busy. And I started researching about the topic of multitasking. It started to click for me in a way that's more than just it is or is not efficient, but it actually linked to my values. Values like giving my brain the space and the capacity to process the things I go through, to take that time to form concepts and realizations after deep discussions that I've had or things that I've learned or experiences that I went through, and to actually start storing solid memories instead of fragments. I realized that constantly switching tasks wasn't just making me feel stressed and overstimulated, it was literally robbing me of the mental clarity I needed to feel healthy and balanced. So I started slowing down and I learned to sit with this discomfort of just doing one thing at a time. Revelation, I know, right? And through this, I can let my nervous system actually regulate itself naturally instead of running on overdrive all the time. Instead of your brain being able to deeply focus on the one thing you're trying to do, it's constantly switching. Even though you think you're doing two things at once, it's just rapidly switching between those two competing things. And this can actually burn extra energy, so it makes you more tired to do two things at once rather than doing two things separately after each other. So this doesn't only burn extra energy, causing you to feel more tired and drained, but it actually also stops your hippocampus, the part of your brain responsible for deep memory and learning, from fully engaging. And instead, you're relying on your striatum, hope I'm saying that right, which is another part of your brain, which is great for surface level habits, but not much else. When you've gone through a time of maybe traveling or being in deep conversations with friends, and your brain isn't actually given the space or capacity to process everything that it went through, experiences, conversations, even emotions, it leaves things fragmented. And that's why multitasking doesn't only leave you feeling exhausted, but it leaves you feeling scatterbrained, and suddenly just your whole life is feeling like it's too much. So what do? You multitask even more because now you feel like you have less time and less capacity to do all the things that you need to do. Plus, it increases your stress hormone, cortisol, which can actually shrink your hippocampus over time. How scary is that? Okay, so now I know you're thinking like, Stefanie, so should I just never multitask anything? No, not completely. Multitasking isn't necessarily always bad. There are certain cases where it is totally okay to multitask and it may be even beneficial. And there are moments where it can actually work in your favor. For example, certain routine tasks like folding laundry and listening to a podcast. And the reason this works is because the two things you're doing isn't competing for the same mental resources. Makes sense, right? So let's look at a few examples. Say you're cooking and you're listening to music. Those two things don't compete for the same mental resources, and that's why it works, with different physical and cognitive tasks. And then there is one place where multitasking or rapid task switching is maybe a necessity, for example, high-paced environments like emergency rooms, but it often takes a lot of practice to really do this effectively. So what we learn is that the key is to combine tasks that don't pull from the same cognitive space, while also avoiding multitasking completely during anything that requires deep focus or emotional presence. Every day, your subconscious and your unconscious mind are processing everything that you felt, observed, saw, and making sense of it, and storing the information you need for future reference and throwing out all the clutter that you don't need. But here's the catch. This process for your brain to do that heavy lifting in the background while you're not even aware of it takes energy, and it takes time, most importantly. And if we're constantly overwhelming our brains with new inputs or constant distraction and constant occupation, our brain doesn't have any space or time to actually shut down and do that hard work in the background. If you're consuming content literally the whole day until the moment where you switch off your phone and you go to bed, your brain is still processing that. That doesn't give it any time or space to go to that deeper level. And then suddenly you feel you have these triggers, frustrations, emotions come up every now and again, and you have no idea where they come from because they might be rooted in something your brain never got the full capacity to process. Now everything's just fragmented and we're exhausted. So what's the solution? Obviously, there are probably a million books you can read on this, but some things that I've started doing is firstly, waking up with intention, and in every moment where I feel that urge while I'm doing one thing to start doing another thing or to rapidly switch between two things, I try just become more mindful of those things and just observe what's happening. The second thing I've started to do is to keep a little book with me. This exact one. The moment that something comes up, I just write it down immediately. And obviously you can just do this on your phone. This helps your brain calm down from the thing that just popped up and went, ooh, look at me, focus on me. And you can just continue with the thing that you were doing, knowing that you can go back to this when it's time. Another thing that helps is losing your phone. Putting your phone somewhere in a spot that is where it's not physically with you, so that you can't just like bloop, doom scroll or distract scroll and not even realize what you're doing, but you actually have to get up and walk to a space to take your phone. It also helps to just put your phone on Do Not Disturb from time to time, to just rid yourself of all those notifications and distractions that constantly pop up throughout the day. I think this is number 4. But the next thing is embracing being more present. So sometimes I would like sit down, I would start doing one thing like making a sandwich, and immediately I'd switch on a YouTube video or put on some series. And more I've started to use those moments to go like, hey, this is like a 5 or a 10-minute task. Why not just embrace the quiet, the stillness of this moment, and sit with the silence or the overwhelming thoughts of my brain and just be present. Just focus on, I'm grating cheese now, or I'm cutting a tomato, or whatever, or I'm toasting my bread. Just focusing on those small little things and tapping into your senses. Focusing on what you're seeing, what you're feeling texture-wise, what you're smelling, what you're hearing, like the if you put the butter on your toast. It's such a silly thing, but those small moments, that grounding and becoming present, can remind you that you're human, you're here, and life doesn't always have to be over there in the future or back there in the past. It can just be here some moments too. And then lastly, remind yourself that what you're doing, even if those moments are so uncomfortable, remind yourself that you're literally just giving your brain the space it needs to form memories for you that you can remember one day when you're older, or solidify concepts from the deep conversations you had, make sense of the emotions so that in a few days you'll wake up and you'll go like, that was the thing I felt, or this was the thing that triggered this other emotion. And giving our brain that space just starts to create more solid whole people out of us. And the more we do this, the more space we're giving our brains to process, to just do its thing. The more we do this, I'm pretty sure the more calm we'll feel, the more solid we'll feel, the less fragmented we'll feel. And multitasking might seem like the answer to your busy life, but maybe slowing down and focusing on one thing at a time is the most productive thing that you can start doing. I'd love to hear, if you want to let me know in the comments, are there any multitasking habits that you have in your life that you want to try rethink? And if you found this helpful and this is your vibe, please like, subscribe, all the things. because it really helps my channel, and I'd love to have you here and have more cool, deep conversations together. Okay, this is the Social Anxiety Society. We're all party in the front and panic in the back, and thanks for watching. Bye!